You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that keeps demanding you play Wonderwall. I'm your host, Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is singer-songwriter and musician Boy M5, also known as Kyle O'Neill.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good.
I feel like this is a real long-time listener, first-time caller situation for me.
I've been listening for the last 2 months.
It's been a long 2 months with everything that's been going on in the world, though.
This is fair, yeah. The last 2 months has lasted about 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad I had this podcast to get me through, though.
Aw. Oh, you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, because you're a singer-songwriter, and a musician, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your style of music and that kind of thing?
So I've been playing for well over 10 years now, and style has changed a lot over the past 10 years, like both musically and dress code. Like I went through so many different styles of dress through this entire thing. I had my waistcoat and flat cap stage, which I try to forget as much as possible. But yeah, so starting out, I've just kind of tried to be the folky singer-songwriter, you know, the typical Irish musician style, because all those guys were my heroes, like Glenn Hansard, Declan O'Rourke, Mundy, all those guys. And I took a bit of a break for a while. I had about 2 years of a break where writer's block set in and nothing was coming out. So I just decided to not do it for a little while. And that little while turned into 2 years. And I revive, but there's elements of kind of hip hop and R&B in the beats and the bass and stuff like that. There's a bit more pop in some parts, a bit more rock in other parts. I like to experiment with different things. So I like to kind of not be tied down to a genre with what I'm doing at any point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like it to be like growing and developing as you're growing and developing.
Yeah, I don't want to just put myself in a box of, you know, all I play is a singer-songwriter or a folk style or rock or pop. When I write songs, I kind of just want the song to tell me which way it wants to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair thing to do, because a lot of people, I would say, musicians would struggle with when they're writing a song. They're going, okay, it has to be this, it has to be that. And I suppose that's then when writer's block sets in.
Yeah, so it was one of my main things for getting back out of it again. So I just released my debut single under Boy M5 recently, which is the name of my new project now. Out of it again. So I just released my debut single under Boy M5 recently, which is the name of my new project now that I'm back doing it. And the song Tell Me is very much pop. Like it's a lot more commercial than anything I had written before, but that was just what came out. And that kind of started the ball rolling with other things. But the next single I have is a bit more rocky and, you know, a bit more balls to the wall kind of style.
And can I be cheeky and ask when you're thinking of putting that one out?
So it was supposed to be this month, but some things happened. So I've recently moved back to Ireland from the UK. So my studio setup is currently all boxed up. So at the minute that's been put on hiatus for a little while, but it's given me time to write. So I'm not focusing on recording the new song at the minute. So it is giving me more time to write new stuff. So when I get my new setup put together, it means that I could have, you know, maybe another 4 for that.
Yeah, that's cool. And you know, that's okay. I'll just sit here and wait in anticipation. It's fine.
Oh, don't worry. You'll know when it's coming.
Yeah, cool.
It'll be all over the social media. I'll be spamming everyone.
Brilliant. And yeah, make sure to let us know because we can spam it too.
Awesome.
So how did you get into music?
Oh, I don't know. I think when I was a kid, I loved singing. Like I have memories of going into my mum and dad's room on like a Sunday morning when I was really, really small and us playing like Pop Idol or X Factor. So I would have learned the lyrics to a song the night before in bed, listening to it on like a tape or CD Walkman. And I'd go into them the next morning and sing it to them, and they would pretend to be the judges. And then I remember when I was maybe 11 or 12, I was watching like MTV or something. And there's this one scene in the bridge of the song when John Resnick is playing the guitar under the bridge, and just the scene of him standing under the bridge, just hammering out the bridge to Iris, and it just made me really want to learn to play guitar. It was a weird one. Just watching that and seeing him completely rock out an acoustic guitar. That's always been my style. Like I haven't been a gentle, folky acoustic player. Like I mistreat my guitars badly. To the point where over the years people have been reluctant to lend me a guitar if I needed one. But yeah, like it was just a thing of seeing someone rock out that hard on an acoustic guitar. To me, like everyone can rock out on an electric, but to do that with an acoustic just stood out to me. So I really got into guitar at that point and just taught myself how to play. I think I went to one lesson and I didn't like the teacher, so I never went back. But yeah, just taught myself how to play. Just slowly learned more and more. Eventually went to college to do it. Got a little bit better there. Went to uni to do it. Got a little bit better there. And then I think in the past few years, I've just kind of honed in on what I want to do a bit more.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like college can kind of, it gives you the knowledge, but you need to actually figure it out for yourself then.
Yeah, I think being around creative people helps. So I think that was one of the main things that college helped with, was being around loads of people with the same mindset and the same drive to do something. It just inspires you to want to do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing about it is as well is you never know what you're going to pick up from other people. You know, you might look at somebody and say, oh, I really like how he does that little thing with the guitar.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit more about because you mentioned that you put out a debut single. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that, kind of what inspired it? And
so the song's called Tell Me. So the song's called Tell Me. And it's based very much around the idea of when something's wrong, sometimes you don't need someone to fix it for you. You just need someone to tell you it's going to be okay. And that's basically what the entire chorus of the song is. It's just, tell me everything will be all right. Tell me everything will be okay. And I actually think it came from, I was having a bit of a man flu. And I was lying around the house, and, you know, in proper man flu style, I told my wife, I think I'm dying. I think this might be it. Like, my days are numbered. And of course she said, your days aren't numbered. You're not dying. And, you know, I don't know what I can do to fix it because it's just a cold. And I said, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to tell me it's going to be okay. You know, in my big stroppy, flu-y state. And from that, I just took the idea that, like, I've heard thousands of one where someone's going, I can't fix it, but I promise it will be okay. You will get through this. So that was just the entire idea behind the song. And it was the first song I have written in like a few years. And when it happened, I just got that first line and everything just came with it. And I didn't trust it to begin with because I was going, this is weird. Like, I haven't been able to write anything. I had ideas over those 2 years and just could never get past, you know, maybe one line that I had thought of. But I made sure to write down all the lines. And funnily enough, a lot of the lines that I had written in my notes over the years ended up in that song. It all just fit together really well, as if it was meant to be, and they were all waiting for this song.
Yeah, and it's always amazing where inspiration can strike, you know, and even because it is such a lovely song, and then, you know, you get into it, you go, well, what's the song about? And you're like, well, I had a cold.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's the thing, like,
such a lovely song, and then, you know, you get into it, you go, well, what's the song about? And you're like, well, I had a cold.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's the thing, like, I think Kira on the last podcast said the same thing, but I don't think we should ever explain what we think the song's about.
Mm-hmm.
I think if a song is written well, people can take whatever they want from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you can explain it to a degree, but not force that on other people.
Like this, I think this is the first song so I've been doing a lot of live streams throughout lockdown. I jumped on that bandwagon real quick. But yeah, I had a few messages from people about that particular song, and some of them were along the lines of, "Oh my God, this song is about me," and "Oh my God, this describes how I'm feeling perfectly." And it was the first one of my songs that actually got that. So I feel like I'm kind of on a new different level of songwriting than I was on before. I was kind of able to take it more.
It's always the things that you kind of just do and you do for yourself that
Yeah,
usually get the best response.
yeah. So for me, it wasn't even to become a song. It was just, it started to happen and it made me happy. So songwriting was always kind of my escape from things. So, you know, having a crappy day, I'll go write a song about it. So I have hundreds of songs that were never released, but they were just personal therapy. And I think with this one, it was a case of those 2 years, you know, when you have a broken tap and you turn on the tap and all that brown crap runs out first, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to keep running the tap and eventually it goes clear. I feel like that's what those 2 years were for me. They were the brown crap that eventually ran clear.
That's lovely. You should put that in a song. Oh, and for anybody listening, Boy M5's debut single "Tell Me" is on YouTube. But if you don't feel, oh, and for anybody listening, Boy M5's debut single "Tell Me" is on YouTube. But if you don't feel like searching, just wait until the end of this episode because we might put it in there.
Yeah,
We might be really generous and throw it in there.
for shameless self promotion as well, it is also available on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the digital service providers because I know how to do all those things. And
Yeah, there you go.
it didn't just go to CD Baby and click all.
Well, there you go. Look at all the choice that you have. Like, you've no
Yeah.
excuse. And speaking of YouTube, I know that people might just say, "Oh, I'll wait to the end of the show and listen to the song," but you have other stuff on YouTube as well.
Yeah, so the world has gone mad at the minute. Like when coronavirus started, that was crazy. And then, you know, I said that everything was getting really nice. Everyone was kind of looking after each other and all this. And then the whole George Floyd thing kicked off. And I found myself at home one day just reading articles and reading posts and stuff about it. And I just found myself getting angrier and angrier with everything and just not understanding how racism and all this crap is still a thing. And like, I don't want to get super political or anything because I am by no means a politics expert, but I've never been able to understand it. But this in particular, just reading into everything that's happened and then the other stories that surfaced because of George Floyd, I wanted to do something and I didn't know what I could do. So what I did was I recorded a cover of a song by Tupac called Changes, which is basically about all of this stuff. And it's about treatment Black people in America by the police and stuff, but also how they get themselves in a vicious circle where the prejudice is put towards them so they feel like they have no option but to live up to that. And I think as Irish people we somewhat understand that in stereotypes. But yeah, I recorded the cover of Changes, did a video for it, and it was just a day at home. I spent one day and just recorded the entire thing and just put it up as kind of a show of solidarity. And within 2 days, there were 22,000 views on it. And I couldn't believe this. Like, I honestly thought there was some sort of glitch. I couldn't figure out how there were 22,000 views in like 2 days. But I think it was just timing and people just needed something.
Yeah, and the great thing is it's actually amazing to see so many artists getting behind this and say, like, the amount of people that I've talked to. We said on a previous episode and she was saying, I wanted to do something, and that to me is like, that is, yes, this is the attitude we need. This is do something, even if you think it's the smallest thing, even if you think it's not going to help, it's not going to make a difference. Like, we need more people doing something.
Yeah. Well, to me, I knew that, the video wasn't going to actively help any of these people, but music is what I do. It's what I know how to do. So I just wanted to show my solidarity in that way. And I wanted to do it in more than just a Facebook post or an Instagram post. And I wanted to show that, I wanted to put effort into it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, no, I do find that very commendable with people who are using their platforms for that, to keep it going, and don't, because these things, they can be a flash in the pan, and then it goes away and the media stops talking about it. But if we keep talking about it, they'll keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So I do very much respect anyone that will use their platform for that.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm not a politics expert, and there's no way that I can change the world on my own. But I thought if I can do this and show a few other people that I'm standing in solidarity, then maybe they will. And hopefully, eventually, the world will come to its senses and realize that we should be past all of this. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and if enough people stand up, it encourages others to stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I don't want to get, too grim, because we seem to, like, a lot of the episodes that we do, people are very passionate about things, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And, if they want to use this podcast to talk about things they're passionate about, I am all for that. I don't want it to get too down, if that
Yeah,
makes
of
sense.
course. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk another little bit about, like you said, you're a singer-songwriter, but you're also a musician. And I don't know if it's a recurring thing, but I've noticed that you kind of play a lot of the instruments on your own tracks.
Yeah. So I grew up in Donegal, and Donegal is a large county, but there's not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things. And it was a case when I was younger of I wanted to record, I wanted to have full band recordings, or if I did have a band, I wanted to have everything figured out. So there's once when I was younger that I went into the studio and I knew that I wasn't good enough to record a lot of the instruments, but as a solo artist, I was paying for the time myself, and I was going to have to pay studio musicians to come in and do this for me. So I always thought, well, if I learn how to play this and I can at least, do a phone recording or something and send it to the person and say, so this is what I want on bass. This is the general idea. You roll with it whatever way you want to. Then it just saves a lot of figuring out time. And then it came in really handy when I started recording my own stuff, because I just set up a studio with all the gear. And I think it helps a lot, even if you're lacking in some of the musicianship that some of the people have, because you've written the song and because you can hear it yourself and because you know which direction it wants to go. And also you can tell yourself that sounds crap, do it again. Like it just helps. So yeah, I just learned basics on a few different instruments, and yeah, that was the reason. Lack of musicians at the time and lack of money to pay good ones.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that makes sense, and I can kind of get behind that, because even myself, if I'm doing a body paint or if I'm doing, balloons or whatever, I don't
Yeah.
like to not be able to pay. Like, I will collaborate with people if they want to collaborate. If I'm doing, balloons or whatever, I don't
Yeah.
like to not be able to pay. Like, I will collaborate with people if they want to collaborate, but I don't like not being able to pay them for their time.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of the time it's kind of just like, okay, I have this balloon dress, whatever, I'll just wear it myself.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, so I kind of get that being a a one-man band.
Yeah, like it's the other issue when I was younger was relying on people, because I don't think if you're getting someone else into your project, like it makes sense that they're never going to be as passionate about it as you are, but you want them to be. Like you want them to be so much, and you want to tell them, this is going to be big, like this is going to be huge, and it's really hard to get people on board with that.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing everything yourself, it's easy to keep motivated.
Yeah, and that's fair as well, like because we've all had our experience of collaborating with someone, or you're relying on their hand. It's kind of like, well, okay, they've got their own stuff going on, and like you said, they're never going to be as passionate about your project as you are. The same
Yeah.
way if you were in their project, you wouldn't be as into it as they were.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's fair, and I think I can safely say that a lot of artists these days are kind of going that route of, yeah, it's good to collaborate, but also I'm going to do it all myself.
Yeah. Oh, I had a big time of it so a few years back, I got offered an opening slot on Monday's tour, and I got offered it like a week before. So the first gig was Friday, and I got called the Friday before. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is a dream come true. I'm getting to open up for, one of my heroes and really great Irish musician. But I have nothing to sell. I have no merch. I have no recordings. So made a few calls and found a guy who's based in Killybegs, which is way out on the Donegal coast. And he had just this little bungalow that was set up as a studio. I think it belonged to some family members or something that had passed away. And when they passed away, they left it to him and he just set it up as a studio. So we did 48 hours straight in that Saturday and Sunday, recorded 5 tracks. On the Monday, and we were basically, it was myself and a guitar player that I played a lot with went down, and everything else we figured out. I played bass, we put some drums in and stuff. But for some of it, it was a case of one of us would sleep on the couch under a duvet while the other was recording. And then we'd just come out, wake each other up and swap. So recorded in 2 days. He told us to give him a day to mix. So in that day, I went to a local printer with a hand-drawn CD cover, which I had then put some text over the top and then put them on this template and just covers. That's going to take like 4 days. Now, no, just print them. I'll sort that. Okay, we can have them printed by the end of the day. So that was CD covers sorted. I then went, and when the mixes were sent to me, I found a local DJ studio that did classes, and they had 10 computers set up. So I put my track on all 10 computers, or my EP on all 10 computers, and just started at one end of the room and worked my way to the other, just click and burn, and just burned each CD individually on 10 computers, and got some stickers for the CDs, put those over the top, cut all the CD covers out that night and glued them together. And that was a disaster at times, because when you're sticking together CD covers with Pritt stick and you're cutting them out yourself, there's a reason people are trained for these things. But I always laugh that it was the 5-day EP from start to finish, because it was ready by the Thursday. I had a full day left. EP from start to finish, because it was ready by the Thursday. I had a full day left. And it's also probably the cheapest EP I ever did, because it was literally all done by me. Now, stress, and didn't get to practice at all for the gig, but thankfully it worked out well.
Yeah. And this is something that we always reiterate, is that it very much is a labor of love, and we absolutely do suffer for our art.
Yeah. Oh, it was worth it though. Like, give me a good story, and I now know that I can do that. If it ever came to it again, I know it's possible.
Yeah. You don't want to, but you can.
Yeah.
So you are from Ireland.
Yes.
And then you moved to the UK.
Yeah.
And now you're back.
I am.
So do you want to talk a bit about that? The whole, homegrown, gone and come back again.
Yeah. So I think, like, I always love telling people that that's where I'm from. And, no matter where I was, it was a case of, don't you dare badmouth Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Only we can do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I think you'll appreciate this as well. Sometimes as an artist of any kind in Ireland, it can be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I had to get myself into a certain mindset. And I went to the UK and I gigged a bit around there and met some other musicians and stuff. And I think I'm just in a different mindset now, where I'm going, I know how to deal with Ireland now. I know that coming back, I can handle it, and I can handle the downfalls it has in order to, get the great things that it has. Because there's parts of Ireland that I've played gigs in. For example, West Donegal is, you might only have 10 people at a gig, but you can guarantee that every one of those 10 people are listening to you might only have 10 people at a gig, but you can guarantee that every one of those 10 people are listening to every single word you say and are telling everyone they know about you afterwards. There is really, like, there's music in the hills in Ireland. And I think we are a creative bunch. And anywhere I go, I've always appreciated that. And I went to Germany a few years back, and I remember being asked by some of the best musicians I had ever seen. Like, couldn't understand how these people could play instruments so well and not be already famous. But them asking me, how do you write lyrics like that? And my answer just being I don't know, I just think it and then I write it. And I think we're born and bred storytellers.
Yeah, absolutely. As Daniel Wade said on his episode of the show, I just bring the words.
Yeah, like it's I don't know how to ever explain that to someone. It's like whistling. You can't teach someone how to whistle.
Where we're from, because I mean, when it's
Yeah.
raining, 95% of the year, what else is there to do?
Yeah. I think we have weird mindsets on some things. Like even when you ask someone in Ireland, how are you? I'm not too bad. It's a weird one. What am I, just bad enough to keep me going for a while? I don't know.
I'm not so bad, it's debilitating.
Yeah.
Or when you're good, you're just grand.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's grand. We're alive. Or we have an expression up north here, which is I'm on the right side of the sod, which is just like it's the darkest thing. It just basically means I'm not below ground yet.
Yeah, we actually say that to probably not our generation, but older generations would say,
Yeah.
say, how you doing? And they go, I'm still above ground.
Yeah. We're an interesting bunch. I think the Irish just think of things a little bit differently.
Yeah,
we're an interesting bunch. I think the Irish just think of things a little bit differently.
Yeah, we have a very warped view of the world, I think.
Yeah, cynical almost.
Yeah, and it helps with the art. It does.
It does. I remember Aisling B was on, I think it was QI a little while back, and she was talking about singing in Ireland, and she was explaining that we all have a certain sadness in our throats. You just have the ability to sing with this sadness.
Yeah, it's always it's beautiful, but it's poignant.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you're on all the streaming services, but where would be like the best place to keep up to date with you?
Definitely Instagram. I tried Twitter recently. I got Twitter, and for a week now I've been trying to get it, and I can't get it. I just don't understand.
Oh yeah, no, I'm atrocious at Twitter myself. Like I
really want to get into Twitter because there's certain radio stations and stuff like that say we put everything on Twitter and blah blah blah, and I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, no,
like
Twitter is...
Facebook is super straightforward, Instagram super straightforward, and for some reason I just can't get Twitter.
Well, I find Twitter very limiting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like make your point, but in the amount of letters that we give you.
Yeah, and they've now added photos and videos and stuff, and I'm kind of thinking, but then what is the point of Twitter?
Yeah.
I can just do what I can do on Facebook or Instagram now, but in a weird way.
Yeah, it's kind of like here's the same app 3 times.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure Instagram. I do like the live stories feature where I can just put up some random stuff, and I know that it's only going to be there for 24 hours.
And then it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Only a select...
24 hours.
And then it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Only a select few will see me being weird.
Yeah, exactly.
So for anybody who's listening at home who, loves music, wants to get into music, what would you tell them?
Oh, just do it. Like I said about the tap, don't be afraid of writing or playing crap, because eventually you'll hit something. Like if you write 100 songs, eventually at least one of them is going to be good. And yeah, just do it. Like go to open mics, do all this stuff. Don't be afraid to do it, because the worst that can happen is someone doesn't like it. And really, what does that matter? Who is that one person that matters that much? Like there'll always be someone who likes it, and it won't always necessarily just be your mom who's telling you you're great. You will connect with someone when you're a nice person. Like I think the whole rock star attitude can be damaging. Like there are obviously people who are famous for it, but I think if you can't back it up right away, don't try with the rock star I'm better than everyone else attitude.
Yeah, and especially if you're not a rock star.
Yeah. Like I know image is important, and there's a lot to be said for walking into a bar and knowing who the musician is, because I think that is a thing. You always know who the musician is or who's in the band just by looking. But yeah, just be cool. Just be a nice person. The world needs more of those.
Yeah. And I think it's actually trending in with celebrities now that if you're a nice person, people tend to follow you more. I mean, look at Keanu
Yeah,
Reeves.
yeah,
You know, people love him because he's a nice guy.
yeah. I think people just need to be nicer to each other. The start of lockdown was really nice. Everyone was looking out for each other. The world was becoming a better place. I think everyone was just a little bit happier. And if we can just do that, like I always remember being told you'll remember the person who was, horrible to you a lot longer than you'll remember the person who was nice. And that's kind of sad in a way, but it's also a good indication of don't be don't be a horrible person.
Yeah.
Because people will remember that and they won't ever forget it.
Yeah, and people are quicker to remember all of the horrible things you've done than all of the nice things
Yeah,
you've done.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, why Boy M5?
Yeah. So it's kind of a cryptic hat tip to one of my heroes, Glenn Hansard. So I imagine most, if not all of your listeners will have some idea who Glenn Hansard is. But if not, Glenn Hansard is an amazing singer-songwriter from Ireland, famous from being in The Frames to the movie. Glenn Hansard is an amazing singer-songwriter from Ireland, famous from being in The Frames to the movie The Commitments. He won an Oscar for Once, and one of the main songs in Once is called Falling Slowly.
Yep.
And that song to me is just perfect. Like someone asked me once in an interview or something, it was one of those interview questions of, desert island, blah, blah, blah. But this particular one was if you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life and you had to pick one song, what would it be? And mine was Falling Slowly. So I remember hearing years ago, and I've never been able to confirm this, but I really like the idea of it. It was a rumor or a myth that the name for Falling Slowly came from the Irish shipping forecast. And every evening on RTE, there's an Irish shipping forecast with the weather for the sailors and stuff. And the weather stations are based on just a nice little cryptic hat tip to someone who has inspired me for years.
That's lovely. And Glenn Hansard, if you're listening.
Oh yeah, Glenn hit me up big time.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person in Ireland that hasn't met him yet.
Well, no, I haven't met him either, actually.
Oh, well, that's good. Everyone I've ever spoken to about this has gone, oh yeah, I've met him before in the pub, or I was hanging out with him last week, and
Yeah.
I'm here going, why can't I meet him?
I've met him. He's lovely. We're best friends. No, I will not introduce you.
He's been my hero for so long that I went to a gig of his once in Vicar Street. I say once, I was there every year, but I got front row, front and center. I was literally standing in front of him, could feel his breath on me. And at one point, the crowd went quiet, and I shouted, "Glenn!" And he looks down and says, "Yeah." I couldn't speak. And what I wanted to ask was, "Can I come play a song with you?" Because this happens sometimes at Glenn's gigs, and it's not unusual to see him just pull someone up on stage and play a song with them. But what actually happened was, can I have your pick? And he just gave me the weirdest look in the world and just went, yeah, okay, there you go. And he just looked really freaked out by me just, chanting his name in the middle of a quiet crowd and then just asking him for his pick. I feel like it was a case of, you could have asked me anything right now, and that's what you went for. So I hope he doesn't remember me.
I hope he does, and I hope he contacts you.
Oh my God, you're that weird kid with the pick, right?
Yeah.
That's me.
But you'll have that story.
Yeah, that's true.
How did you guys meet? Well, 10 years ago I gave him a pick and now we're best friends. But yeah, for anybody listening who Glenn Hansard is, just watch once. It's beautiful.
Oh, for just check out anything, really.
Yeah.
Like the man, he's the reason I sing like I do. I think this kind of comes back to the Irish thing that for me, a great singer, songwriter, musician is someone who can play or sing like they're doing it for their lives. Like they're at gunpoint and the person has said, convince me not to do it. And in every song he sings, and hopefully in every song I sing, hopefully that comes across. That's the attitude I take.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes across.
Well, thank you.
I'm biased though. But I'm hoping everybody listening will also be biased too.
Yeah, hopefully.
And the good kind of biased.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody listening at home, check out Boy M5, check out all of his music on all the platforms and the Instagram and everything. Encourage him to keep going because, you know, it's only getting worse and worse, and we need as much music and laughter and love and beauty in the world as we possibly can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
The pleasure has been all mine.
No, I don't think so. No, it's been mine. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will put all the links in the description so that people can keep up to date with you, and hopefully you get lots of new followers and it's all good.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.